So I was asked to talk to you about what would make you successful in obtaining funding from the NIH. And to be honest, I don't think anybody can tell you that. Peer review committees are pretty hard to predict. So I'm going to do my best to give you some pointers. But I wasn't sure how many people in the audience knew about the NIH or what you knew about the NIH. So I'm going to give you a little background. As Perry mentioned, there's 27 institutes and centers, each with a specific research agenda, like cancer or diabetes. It's the primary federal agency for conducting and supporting medical research. The NIH invests over $32 billion annually in research and is the largest source of funding for medical research in the world. And I think a very important point is that the NIH leadership and staff play an active role in shaping what comes out of the agency. So it's very important for you to get to know the program staff, leadership if you can, and you can, in that way, you can be able to help shape the agency's agenda. I also thought it would be interesting for you to see which institutes were getting the most funding from Congress. And in this way, you can target your efforts. The Cancer Institute, of course, almost always, I think, gets the largest piece of the pie at $5 billion. Our previous institute, the Allergy Institute, is pretty close behind at 4.9. Then Heart and Lung, General Medical Sciences, and NIDDK. So I think, as some of you know, we have a new institute director at the NIH who came from the Genome Institute. So one of the priorities for this year is to apply genomics research to cancer and autism. Cancer and autism have been a high priority for a couple of years now. And as you can see, starting in fiscal year 2010, the NIH decided to try to double their cancer research in the next 8 years. And autism research also got a large chunk of the pie, $141 million across all the institutes. So I also thought it'd be of use to you to know what the priorities are for the institute. There are some additional priorities here. The Common Fund is a pool of money that's to be used to incubate new projects that are high risk and also to try to bring in new investigators into the pool. The new investigator community programs are based on the fact that the average age of first-time PIs is increasing, and we want to get some new blood into the Institute's research funding pool. The clinical research translation has been a priority for a couple of years now, and if you're not familiar with what that means, it means translating research from the bench to the bedside so that we can come up with new ways for patient care, new and more effective ways for patient care. And I think that you all are very aware of the CTSAs, so I'm not going to talk about that. So those were the official priorities from the NIH. What I wanted to talk about was the bioinformatics priorities. This is not an official list. This is my list based on being at the NIH for the last 7 years and working with the other institutes who are also involved with bioinformatics. So as one of the gentlemen was talking about yesterday, human subjects privacy is a big deal, and anonymity of those subjects. Because as our computer expertise advances and our ability to determine different markers, genetic markers for patients, is becoming easier and easier to identify people computationally. So it's not just a matter of hiding their name or hiding an ID. You now have SNPs you have to deal with. You have a lot of other information. So this is actually an area that you could be looking at for computational research. And I do know some universities actually are looking at ways to obscure the data, but still keep the utility of the data. So there's always this trade-off of utility and privacy. So we want to try to keep the utility there so we can use all this great research data that's been generated with all this money. But you know, people are really demanding their privacy these days, so we need to look at that. Data sharing and data interoperability, I think these were both talked about yesterday as well. Data sharing, I noticed the NSF has a requirement for a data management plan now. So the NIH has had a requirement for a data sharing plan since about 2003, I think, or 2004. So we don't go quite as far as the NSF, but data sharing is a high priority for us. Again, because of the limited funding environment, we really need to get all the juice out of the data that we can. So in your data sharing plans, I can't tell you how many times I've looked at proposals that people say, I will share data. That's their data sharing plan. That's not good enough. So you really need to be specific. You usually don't have a whole lot of space to talk about your data sharing plan, but at least tell us where you're planning to deposit data, if you're going to put it on a website, what you're going to do with it, how are you going to share the data. Data interoperability, the standards, I think was discussed a little bit yesterday. Again, very high priority. There are some standards for laboratory data, but people haven't really agreed on common standards for a lot of things. Ontologies, another area. Again, there's lots of ontologies out there. Nobody's really come down to one or two ontologies. And an area in medical research that really needs some work is standardization of phenotypes, because you can get a whole room full of rheumatologists and they won't agree on what a standard description of that disease is. Is it the presence or absence of something? Is it quantitative laboratory value? Is it different for children and adults? I think so. So these standard phenotypes would be very useful in building artificial intelligence systems and other types of decision support. Novel tool development kind of, I think, almost goes without saying. Analysis, visualization, and prediction tools are all needed in this field. And the reuse and secondary analysis of data to produce novel findings. Again, we have a very limited budget these days, so we need to get everything we can out of the data. And if there's time, I'm going to talk a little bit about one project that's been started and has had some limited success in this area. And then a very high priority is the multi-scale modeling of disease processing and modeling the human immune system. And NIAID has one program for immune modeling, and they've also just awarded the Human Immune Profiling Consortium. So again, for NIAID especially, this is a big area of research, but I think all through the NIH. So now I'm going to move to some specifics. I thought this would be most useful for this group, since this is primarily a computational group. The BISTI is the Biomedical Information Science and Technology Initiative. Not sure how well this is coming through. Oh, good. This is a group that's made up of representatives from all the different institutes. Some institutes do not participate, but it's all people who are interested in bioinformatics and manage bioinformatics at their institutes. They do have a pot of money that they're using to be able to solicit certain programs. And I would highly encourage you to go to this website. I'm going to show a little bit more of it. So on the main page, you see that there's a funding tab. Go to funding, and that shows you the current funding opportunities. Also, further down on this page, there's funding from the various institutes for bioinformatics research, but it's not a comprehensive list. So if you're really interested in a specific institute like cancer, you should go to the Cancer Institute website, look for funding opportunities, and there'll be a list. They won't be specific to bioinformatics, but you'll have to go through and take a look. So this gives you an idea of what is out there. This is only part of the list. And I thought I would focus in on the first one, the innovations in biomedical computational science and technology. So that, again, this is solicited research. You can put in your proposal. And the idea here is to really innovate. So what they're looking for is areas of biomedical computation that will enable progress in biomedical research. These areas I've listed here, genomic sequences, et cetera, are just examples. There's lots of other areas that you could try to target. And the idea is really to move the field forward, both in biomedical research, but also computationally. Here's some examples of things that you might think about applying for. Tools for data acquisition, archiving, the usual. Platform-independent translational tools for data exchange. Again, this is the whole interoperability issue. Analytical and statistical tools, and again, the modeling for complex disease. And one thing that's important about these models, you want to be looking at multi-scale models. That's really an area that needs some research. So further down the BISTE page is information about programs that are being funded out of the Common Fund, which I talked about earlier, was that the incubator for high-risk research. And this, again, just gives you a quick list. I don't know how well you can see that blue, but, and I am not as familiar with these, but I'm gonna narrow in on the NIH Common Fund Transformative Research Projects Program. Again, this is even, if you can say this, even more innovative than the previous one that I just showed you. They are looking for unconventional research with groundbreaking, high-risk research. And they want you to be really thinking outside the box to be successful on these. This is just a piece of the solicitation for that one I just showed you, this one, the Common Fund. And I just wanted to show that to give you a sense of sort of what they're looking for. Innovative therapies, diagnostic tools, or preventive strategies. And you all can go out to this site and look at it in more detail if you're interested. So I was asked to say, what are peer review committees looking for? And again, this is kind of a hard thing to say, but in my experience, especially for these BISTE programs, they're looking for innovation. If you just have another gene prediction algorithm, and there's nothing different about it, you haven't introduced any kind of new methodology, it's not going to be successful. And so I would encourage you, even if this has been your life's work or the last few years' work, to go out and take a look at what's out there, because you may be replicating things that are already done or have been in the pipeline at the same time yours was, and it just got awarded. As was talked about quite a bit yesterday, team science is really important. Cross-disciplinary teams in these complex programs are necessary. There's no one or two people who have all the expertise that's necessary to get these jobs done. They're also looking for broad applicability. So what I mean by that is if you've designed some tool or piece of software and you have targeted a specific domain like genomics, and they're looking for that tool to be able to be taken and used in another domain, let's say in geology, but with just maybe some tweaks. So it's new and different enough computationally that you can use it somewhere else, and it would move that field forward as well. And this is kind of a no-brainer. You know, we want well-written proposals, but you know, I've served on a couple of peer review committees for the NSF, and I've seen some pretty badly written proposals. Just basic things, you know, proofread your things, make sure you don't have typos. It really goes against you in these committees, especially when the pay line for funding is so tight that anything to differentiate good proposals might get that one killed. Clearly describe your concepts and be specific. Again, you gotta give the peer review committee something to judge. So you really need to be as specific as you can. I know you have a page limit usually, but many times the proposals are not funded because we don't have a clue how you're going to accomplish what you're trying to do. Excuse me. And again, I would say if you have doubts about whether your program fits into one of these solicited research areas, I would encourage you to contact the people at the bottom of the solicitation. There are a list of contacts, and give them a call. That's what they're there for. You can talk to them about what your idea is, what's the best way to present it. That's what they're there for. Probably should have put this at the front when I was talking about other budget resources, but I just did kind of a crude keyword search on informatics in the NIH reporter system just before I came. And it shows a high number of grants and contracts with the word informatics in it. And I think that that's because almost everything that's being done now at the NIH has some kind of informatics component. And again, that depends on how you're defining that, but it could be data management, it could be analysis, it could be a lot of things, it could be visualization, imaging, but embedded in this are just specific informatics grants as well. And you could see there was a little blip up in 2009 and then a little decrease in 2010, which I think is kind of consistent with the reduction in funding that we've seen. And again, I just did the top institutes across for funding informatics, again, just with this keyword search. So, you know, it's not the best measure, but you see NCI because of the CA BIG program, NCRR because of the CTSAs, the NLM because they have the NCBI, NIGMS and NHLBI. So again, if you're trying to find an institute that you want to target your program to, you know, this might be one of the ones you want to look at. And here, I don't know if you can see this too well. I can't see it very well on my screen. I just pulled, again, out of the NIH reporter system, and this is all public, so you can run these same reports. Examples, if I did the keyword search on informatics, it gives you examples of some awarded programs. You can see some are biostatistics and informatics cores, some are decision support systems. So there's kind of a wide variety, a gene knockout resource for C. elegans. And then over to the right, you can see the different institutes that have been funding these things, the dollar value. So you can run these same reports, you know, these are hyperlinks, click on them, see what the people who have good awards are doing, and that might give you some idea how to prepare your proposals. This is the main NIH page, and I just wanted to highlight this bottom left corner where it says funding for research. There's a lot of information here. Down at the very last link there, it says award information and data. There's what's called the NIH reporter system in there, and there's a whole variety of variables that you could search on. So that's very useful information. And then also the funding plans by institute, and various other things about grants, grant application basics. How much more time do I have, Perry? 1 minute? Okay, very quickly. I just wanted to highlight a couple of successful large programs that I've been involved with at the NIAID. The main one is the IMPORT program, which is funded under the Bioinformatics Integration and Support Contract. This is a public resource. IMPORT stands for Immunology Portal. I could spend about 2 hours talking about it, but it is an example of a large data repository with analysis tools and visualization on top of it. Again, it's public, it's free. You just have to register. If you look over there, it says register for import. You just click on that and you put a little bit of contact information in and you're registered. And there's a lot of information that you can use for potential research purposes. Also, inside of import is an analysis tool. This is an example of a novel analysis tool that was funded by NIAID. It's a flow cytometry analysis tool. It's got automated gating and some really nice visualization. And I was pleased to see at the poster session that one of the folks there is already using Phlox, so that's good. The Immune Epitope Database and Analysis Resource, again, a public resource. This is, again, funded under NIAID between the La Jolla Institute for Allergy and Immunology and SAIC. And I forgot to mention on import is also a pairing of Northrop Grumman and UT Southwestern Medical Center. So again, kind of team science here. And the last one, again, a public resource. This is a program that was set up many years ago to look into the mechanisms of innate immunity. They've got a lot of information here that's very useful, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. So I just want to say there's resources everywhere at the NIH. So if you have questions, go to the websites or go to the Institute websites. Find out who the contact people are, call them, that's what they're there for. The people like Perry used to spend a lot of time on the phone with them. And so these are the websites I've shown you, the NIH, BISTI, and this last one is general funding opportunities related to NIH, so those are not bioinformatics specific. And the final three I went through very quickly. I just wanted to let you know about because they are public resources for scientific researchers, and I think you would find them very useful. So thank you.
Okay, it doesn't show. Oh, here it is, here it is. So I started at NSF August 30th, so I've been here 3 months. I came at a time when all three divisions of SAIS actually had new directors. The AD had left, and it was actually, I didn't even realize how chaotic it was. So the last 3 years, the last 3 months have been very interesting, and actually it's important when I looked at the, what should I talk about, I actually said I should really talk about all the things I knew when I wrote proposal and I went to panels and what I know now and really look at that increment because I think that's the most useful thing for you all to know. So I have a slide here. You know, there were all these N acronyms, so now at least I have to say the initial letters of all the abbreviated things you see up there at NSF are a little bit more diverse than at NIH. They start with all kind of things. SAIS is one of the 11 directorates. The Office of OCI, of course, is very much related to this event. They do have their, I think they have some event going on in OCI, so that's why actually none of them was able to come. In SAIS, so where all the computer science and research and some of the engineering research happens, there are the three divisions, and each one of those directorates has divisions, and the CCF division is the one that I'm the director of, and I have about 12, 13 program officers and the staff in that division. They're roughly equal in size. I would say budget-wise, CNS is the largest, but that's because some of these cross programs and more of the cross programs actually run through CNS. So if you are in size, if you do size-related research, you really should know those divisions and the clusters. And then you say, well, what are all these programs that NSF funds? And this is really what it looks like. All these programs exist. They have existing grants. And the question is, how do you figure out where to apply to, where to send your proposals and what they do? On the left there, you have the three size divisions, and each division has their clusters, which are the core programs, and I have these three core programs that are in my division: Algorithmic Foundation, then the Communication and Information Foundations, and the Software Hardware Foundations. That really goes from very theoretical computer science to the computer engineering, signal processing, communications part, to the architecture, design automations, and software engineering. It's probably the broadest division in size. And of course, if you're a core researcher, you know you're going to apply to proposals in these core areas. But then to the right are all these programs that also exist and that you should know about. Some are pretty much established, like the RAUs, the RET. Some of those have been around for a long time. Little change happens from one year to the next. But some other ones are emerging, and you actually will find a deadline. Some other ones have existed, and you don't see a deadline at all. So for example, if you wanted to submit something to Fedova or Hikura, those programs exist. They have funded things, but there is no deadline. There will be no deadline in the near future. There are other ones that SI Square, the software infrastructure for sustained innovation, has no deadline, but there will be a deadline very shortly. And there are other ones that have deadlines coming up and that you can find. And so how do you actually navigate all that? Actually, this kind of, while one knows this picture as a PI, you really, once you are at NSF, you really understand why it is so chaotic looking. And it isn't quite as bad, but it is really hard to figure out. So in any department, especially if junior people come and say, well, where should I look for funding? Hopefully they have a mentor. They have somebody who helps them navigate this. So so actually this was, there is even more. I'm not going to go through those. I mean, these are all programs that you'd find, and some, like the graduate research fellowships, are very important for the students, and those are already very, very specialized, and I think not actually sure that the average faculty would apply to them. Okay, so these all exist, and how do you navigate all that? And so how do you navigate all these programs, all these solicitations? Yes, there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of things are public knowledge and are on websites. That necessarily doesn't mean it's useful and you can find it. So here are my 4 points on really how to navigate this. First of all, read the solicitations and the program descriptions very carefully. When I got there in August, I immediately had to finish up 3 solicitations, and I was sort of puzzled. Why is it written that way? And sort of the answer came back. Well, this is how solicitations are written. They can't be too specific. So they are very vague, and you cannot read them and say and hear what you like to hear. You really need to find out what do they really mean. The best way to do that is actually to talk to call up the program director before you submit a proposal who's involved in this. That doesn't mean all the names listed know anything. A lot of these crosses, there's 1 or 2 names that know something, and there might be 8 names that know very little. So you not only do you want to call the right person, because some of these cross programs, I have to assign somebody from my division to work on it, and they say, okay, I do it, I run a panel. They know actually very little. The other thing that I think is useful is you subscribe to the updates that NSF sends out on new solicitations, on dear colleague letters and all these things. That's actually a very useful thing. What I never did as a PI, and I actually think is very helpful, is you take a look at the budget requests to Congress, pull up what size actually asked for, which they will not get, but it gives you an idea of, when you look at the 11 budget, where were the important areas? What were the new things? It's a good chance that what NSF or anybody sells to as a new initiative, if the budget has to be cut, it's not going to be as likely to be cut, because why would you cut what you just proposed? You're more likely to cut something that's in their 2nd or 3rd year. So this is fairly interesting reading, and it gives you a sense on what's important, and it puts a better context on things. Also, NSF funds a lot of workshops. And I'll talk about one workshop that I have already started a couple workshops, simply because I want to know what goes on in certain areas, what are people doing, what are possible ideas for a solicitation. A lot of the workshops are a little bit hard to find. That's why I think when you subscribe to the NSF updates, you get a fair amount of this information. Many of them are by invitation, and have some invitations out where you say, well, you can participate, but you may not get invited to participate. But they have reports. You can find out what was going on. And finally, if you're still lost after all this, read the NSF strategic plan. It's just like any strategic plan. But it does highlight some trends, and some of the programs that I'll have on the next slides, they are mirrored in the strategic plan, and so you can see they will run no matter what happens to the budget. So I don't know how many slides I'll get through. I mean, you'll have those slides afterwards. I basically list a couple of solicitations that are not deadwood, and that I think some of them actually have some future, and you should really pay attention. And for the people that were here in the earlier session on the technology in the classroom, any one of those should really look at the cyber learning solicitation that came out in September. And there is a task force report, and it really talks about integrating technology with learning, and use technology to improve learning and understand why people learn better. Not just saying, oh, these students seem to like it. That's not good enough. I mean, why? What is it really that is now possible that wasn't possible before? There is a solicitation also. There is one program director who was actually hired to do this particular focus area, which is in the strategic plan, Janet Kalatner from Georgia Tech. She's a rotator, and this is the person to contact. It is a cross program with other directorates, but most of the money comes from SAIS. So this is certainly something that's very broad, and you'd really need to try to understand that. A second one related to workforce development is the computing education for the 21st century, which merges the CPATH and the BPC programs that existed in SAIS. And it aims at building a computationally savvy 21st century workforce. It has a strong emphasis on education, outreach, and on not only doing things, but assessing and knowing why things work. We don't really know in computer science. We have why is it that certain techniques are really good techniques for students to learn and others not? And this is one of the core focuses of this program. Jan Cuny, who ran the BPC programs in SAIS, is the one who's who's really the main contact. They will have a couple of town hall meetings in the early 2011 that if you can't attend, there's one coming up in New Orleans. If you can't attend, they will broadcast it. You can get that information and you'll find out what is it really that they're looking for. It is not the program where you send your favorite outreach program to get more money. That's not it, okay? CDI, that's been around for a while, and it still has a solicitation. It's across NSF. Every directorate has a contact. I think some of you may have submitted to it. I know PIs that submitted who were frustrated, say, well, what do they really want? I think the important thing is look at this. This has been out long enough that you can actually look at what has been funded versus the other two programs are completely new. There is nothing, no history. And actually, before you write a CDI proposal, really talk to the program officer in your directorate, look at what's funded, look how it fits in with the other ongoing big overarching ideas that NSF is interested in. Cyber-physical system, pretty much what I said about CDI applies to cyber-physical systems. There was a summit with a lot of work that was described. And again, it's a very broad effort. Some of the panels are very interdisciplinary, which can make some of the reviews. Sometimes people feel they don't get a fair shot at the reviews. CI team, that's related to the cyber infrastructure, training, education, advancement, and mentoring of the 21st century. That's a program that runs out of OCI. There is no solicitation out, but it will run next year. SAIS is just trying to figure out how much money to actually put in for 2011. I think some of the people here at Purdue have looked at that before, and so that program is continuing. Expeditions, Purdue doesn't have an expeditions grant. That is 3 years worth of expeditions cycles have gone through, run out of SAIS, out of my division, and those are sort of like your little SDC centers. They are large effort, they are bold, creative, visionary, innovative, all these words applies to all of them. It's up to $2 million per year for 5 years. They're very showy. If you look at the awards that have been funded before, it gives you a sense on what you have to do. They are very broad. Few guidelines are given on what is expected. So your best bet is really to look at what has been funded. I mean, these programs should be something that NSF can showcase. And it has to be something that has context to society besides in addition to the science that is done. And honestly, I think Purdue should really, well, if Purdue decides to submit something, I'm completely out of this. I don't have to go to any site visit. I'm completely out of the review of this because of the conflict. But honestly, I think Purdue should really try to have a successful expedition proposal. Most of them are done between more than one institution. So we would really have to partner with somebody. I think that increases the chances. This is a new initiative. There's a new solicitation out. The first proposals have just come in. Smart health and well-being. The PIs, Tom Henderson, who is a rotator of Utah. And it really looks at discoveries in the area of smart health and well-being, which could be from monitoring illness, maintaining your health, basically the whole spectrum, everything that NIH doesn't do, okay? There are some efforts here at Purdue in the area of health with the Reagan Street Institute, and I really think people need to look very carefully at this effort. This is something that will have a future and future funding, and now is the time actually to really put together a team and see what can be done. The health efforts are a strategic effort for all of NSF, and SAIS has taken a leadership role out of IIS, and so this is something that you'll see probably an increased funding in the next years. There is the SI squared, I'd mentioned this earlier. There's another one, a software infrastructure for sustained innovation programs. It has, I think there have been 2 cycles before. So there's no solicitation out, but there will be one out shortly. And there is a contact, Manish, at OCI that knows the most about it. So if you look at if you actually read the budget and you see where do you see the really big ideas that are sort of highlighted as coming in future years, one of them is cyber learning, which has a solicitation and which is out. Another effort is science, engineering, and education for sustainability, which is SEAS, which is going to be a funding effort which will grow in the next years and will involve a lot of the SCI's and OCI researchers. And then science and engineering beyond Moore's law, which exists now but doesn't really have a true solicitation except some programs in engineering. So I think these are 3 themes that exist in the budget that are important and are likely to not disappear so quickly. I'll talk something about the C's because within SCI's, my directorate is the one that is most involved in C's because it's a lot of the work is foundational by really asking what are the computational problems in sustainability and energy. And there exists a number of C solicitations, and I give you one link which is actually in Geo, which then gets you to the other links. And every directorate has a contact, and SCI's is planning, and there exist many workshops that are actually, if you're in geology, if you're in biology, in engineering, that already exist. But SCI's has so far only participated and provided computational support for researchers in other areas, and so we are actually looking in February to run a workshop which will look at the role of information sciences and engineering in sustainability. It's going to be called the RISES workshop, and this is being basically put together now, and it's going to be, the majority of the people will be invited. There will be some opportunity to actually attend. But what's really important then is, to see the outcome of this workshop, see what the speakers say and what NSF will do with that. So this is an area with in all directorates at NSF, we'll see some future opportunities. Science beyond Moore's law is in the budget. It has a fair amount of attention, and it's both in engineering, in SCI's, in MPS, in OCI are directorates that participate in it. There is also a workshop that happened in July of 2010, and it's really looking at the computation and saying, well, what is next? What's next on new algorithms, new architectures, new materials, devices, processes? And actually what happens with SCBML is that existing money is allocated to really fund work that falls in this area. And then the usual step is, if this becomes something that really has that there is a researcher base that will produce really innovative research and will really, then NSF will go and will work with and create a solicitation. So sometimes there is money. There is a Dear Colleague letter that talks about an effort, and even though no new money has come in for this effort, existing money is redirected to it. And for SCI's, the SCBML is basically in this situation. Okay, this is one thing. If you are in ITAB and you want to really get involved, this is what you need to look at. Actually, there existed your colleague letter where it was still called CF21, but that was too easy to confuse with CE21, so it was recently changed to CIF21, the Cyber Infrastructure Framework for the 21st Century. This is something that will come. Right now there's only a dear colleague letter, so watch out for that and basically make sure you get all the feeds that relate to it. Here are some of the links that I think you should look at that are relevant, and yes, questions then once we're all done. Okay.
I'll try to zip along here because I'm here all the time and we'd be glad to talk to anyone at any point in the future. Okay, where's the forward, Perry? I hit forward and it didn't go anywhere. Okay, magic touch. Research Development Services is a value-added group in the Office of the Vice President for Research. So most everything we do is either initiated by faculty who are in need of assistance, or anything we come up with that we think might be useful to you along the way. I'm not going to spend time reading through these because I know your time is rather short, but the summary that Perry gave is essentially covers this. We do help find funding opportunities, and we send out weekly emails that many of you have probably seen. Perry himself helps build research communities, groups of faculty who may come together either around a scientific concept or an upcoming funding opportunity, specifically normally in NIH. The proposal coordinators, and I'll get to this further, of which there are 4, work extensively in helping faculty write proposals. So the primary goal has been historically to work on the multi-million-dollar interdisciplinary proposals, and they're usually, each of the 4 is usually working on 2 to 4 of those at a time, along with a few small proposal consults, and I'll talk about them. So they're very, very busy. They also help find some of these bits and pieces that Cheryl and Suzanne have referred to, Cheryl specifically, where your faculty are focused on the science, and the proposal coordinators are recognizing the other aspects that are required, the broader impact, management plans, the like. We haven't, by the way, had requests from faculty who are leading large cyber-related proposals historically. We work on a lot of them, but for some reason, nobody out here asks for help. So. But we have at least one proposal coordinator who's pretty competent in that area. We also help identify red teams. So if you're getting a proposal ready to go out and you'd really like some peer review but don't know where to go with it, we'll help pull that together for you. And if you're going to get to the point of a site visit, typically the $20 to $100 million proposals, we will do most everything it takes to help that happen. There's a lot of pieces to one of those. We also coordinate limited submission competitions. Probably many of you are aware of what those are. And this email up here is what you should use if you have a proposal that you'd like a little help on. You send an email to this proposal coordinator, and one of the 4 will get back to you to have a communication about how they might be able to help in a fairly short time span, an hour or 2 with you. We have a lot of links on our websites, and I'm just going to skip to those for now. Funding resources includes the weekly funding emails, email alerts. You can go click on that link and you can end up getting yourself set up for COS, for NSF, for NIH, for any number of other places that provide email alerts. This in general is a really good link to take a look at if you're wanting to get updated funding information. Research development as a whole, I've given you a summary of, but take a look at this page and it will give you more information. Project coordination is essentially what Perry and I sometimes do, and that is helping getting things up and running, and then to a large degree handing them over to proposal coordinators as need be. This is what the proposal coordinators do for large proposals. and for small ones. And I don't mean to dismiss this at all, but I believe the handouts, the slides are available at some point, and it's worth thinking about what these people can do to help you. They make a significant difference. Some people tend to think, I don't need somebody to edit, but they do a great deal more than that. They will help put order on the chaos often. Proposal preparation resources. We also have a lot of funded proposals in our office, and we'll always try to get more where they might be appropriate. You can access the research handbook there, which has start to finish information about where you start, which offices you go through as you're working on proposals. We have some proposal writing guides. We link to SPS pre-award, and Amanda will be up next. And we have a number of workshop presentations that are archived there. And that's it.
Okay. I'm just going to talk briefly about how we're structured in pre-award and the services that we provide, and a little bit about the process and what the different roles and responsibilities are between the different parties, and then just a little bit about how we get feedback from you all after you have submitted a proposal. So we're currently structured into 5 pre-award centers, and we made this leap initially in 2006 with Discovery Park, and then in 2009 we opened the College of Engineering Center, and then last year we opened the remaining 3 centers, which cover basically the rest of campus. The Central Pre-Award Center isn't listed out the different colleges because they do cover a variety: technology, education, liberal arts, management, and then every other group on campus like ITAP or libraries that might submit a proposal. Here's our website, and that basically on the first page here you can see you can link to the different centers. From that place you can get the contact information for the various centers and more information about what we do. So just a little bit about the process, and this is very high level and doesn't intend to cover everything. It's just kind of to hit on the main points once you've decided you're going to submit a proposal. The first thing, of course, is to contact us so that we can get started and get some of the information out to you that you might need, and most importantly, make sure you get assigned to a specialist who has the time available to help you and will be in the office and those kinds of things. The second thing then, of course, is all of the meat of the work is preparing the proposal, working on your budget, your technical piece, every little piece depending on the proposal that you need to complete before submission. Once it's ready, sponsor programs will route it for investigator academic approvals. We then provide an institutional review, institutional sign-off, and then we submit it to the sponsor. So that's kind of just high level, the process. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about the different roles and responsibilities. So in the pre-award center, our specialists are responsible for reviewing guidelines and identifying any key issues that might relate to the administrative parts of the proposal. We aren't going to be able to help you with the science or the technical piece, but we're going to be able to help identify, oh, you need this extra document that we might be able to provide, or you need you might need some additional thing that isn't normal or isn't standard, or there might be specifics that you have to budget travel or something like that, that we're going to pull those things out and make sure that you're aware of them. We're going to help you prepare the budget using our system, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. If there's a subcontract that you have on your proposal, we will help gather all of the necessary documents that we need from an institutional perspective, and also if there are things we need from the perspective of the sponsor, we will help with that piece. We will assist with documenting any cost sharing if you're doing cost sharing on that proposal, which you should not be doing on any NSF proposals here in the near future, except for a few specific ones. If you have a current and pending that's required for your proposal, we will pull that together and then send it to you for a review and approval. We use the data that we have in our system to develop those. And then if contracting is needed, we will work with them and get them involved at the appropriate point. If there are sponsor forms, the grants.gov package, the fast lane, anything that needs to be completed for the sponsor, we will work on that and do as much as we can. If there are questions we have for you, we come back and ask them, but most of that's administrative type information that we can complete. We'll build those grants.gov packages and make sure all the attachments get put in the correct place. We do what we can to make sure that the proposal meets all the sponsor guidelines in its final form. We do that from an administrative perspective. If there are technical items that need to be addressed, we aren't capable of identifying those, but at least the administrative pieces. And then we do, like I said earlier, obtain those approvals that are necessary. And then once we've submitted the proposal, we will assist with any just-in-time information, rebudget requests, additional documentation, that kind of thing, and making sure that that gets handled in a timely manner. From a PI perspective, we ask that you notify us as soon as you know you're going to submit a proposal, at least 2 weeks if at all possible, but we have handled those rare occasions when it's the day before, 2 days before it's due. We prefer to have more time, and that way we can provide more service and be of more help. We ask that you familiarize yourself with the application. Of course, provide the technical content, and then work with us on fully costing the budget and preparing the budget justification. Any other text that's necessary that may be needed, there's sometimes the checklist, the bio sketch. The budget justification, current pending, I've already discussed a little bit. Assuring that the proposal meets the page number format and that kind of thing. We will help check for that, but often we get it too late to really make an impact on those kinds of things. So you need to be aware of the page numbers and the font and those specifics. And then, of course, we work with you to secure the cost share commitments. We do the documentation, but we ask that you're working with your department head and the other departments to try to secure it and make sure that people are on board and committed to supporting your project. Of course, once you forward it, you need to forward the final proposal to us. Sometimes we miss out on that piece, and getting everything at the last second can make for a pretty tense 5 minutes or so there at the end of the day. Making any changes to documents that we might identify, providing us with your contact information for submission day so that if you're traveling, we have your cell phone number, whatever we might need, and if we find something we need to contact you about, that way we can. The proposal submission form, which I'll talk about here in a minute, we need your assistance with completing some of the questions related to that. And then notifying us of any collaborating institutions and providing us with a contact so that we can help assist with gathering those documents from them. So the proposal submission form has been around for a while, and really it comes to you in the form of a worksheet at the beginning, and it's basically a list of, I've lost track of the number of questions. We shortened it recently, but a number of questions related to compliance and conflict of interest and those kinds of things that we ask that you as the PI answer so that we know that we have the most accurate information. And we take those pieces of information, put them into COIAS to generate the form. The form also provides just basic details, basic data about the proposal. This is also the form that we have used in the past to gather academic approvals, and here very shortly all of those academic approvals will be gathered in our COIAS system, so the form won't be seen by the department heads and deans any longer. It provides us with credit split information, like I mentioned, conflict of interest, regulatory information. So here's just a little bit about our system. We have COIAS on the pre-award side and One Purdue on the post-award side. And COIAS, here you can see this is COIAS Lite, is now available for investigators to use if you want to. It's merely a tool and is not by any stretch a requirement for proposal development, but you can use it to go in and play around with budget numbers. There's the ability to add attachments, and we're collaborating with others across the university and those kinds of things. So if you have an interest in this, I encourage you to contact your pre-award center. We can arrange training, we can get you access, and all of that kind of thing. So that's basically the process and a little bit about what we do in pre-award. We gather feedback after we submit a proposal. We send a questionnaire on almost everyone. We're trying not to overburden active researchers, so they're not getting them on every single proposal. They're getting them maybe once every few months or so. But it's just 4 simple questions that we ask you to answer. Comes in an email with this kind of text to it. And then we post those results on our website. And they look something like this. And it kind of shows us how satisfied you are with our service. I really should say that the most valuable part of that entire survey is the comment box at the bottom. We love getting those comments. I appreciate any kind of constructive feedback we get, and we try to take those and learn from them and change processes if we need to, that kind of thing. It also serves as encouragement for our staff if we're getting positive feedback on the work that they've done. So we appreciate any feedback that you do provide when you finish a proposal. That's all I had.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome.
We do have a few minutes for questions. We do have the microphones as well, don't we? Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So, anybody want to start out? I have a couple myself, but I want to make sure that you have access first. Let me go ahead and ask my question. This question is really for Cheryl and Suzanne. I've noticed many times that people are either used to going to NSF or used to going to NIH, and certainly it may be the same thing, they're just calling it a different thing. Certainly one place might be cyber infrastructure, another place might call, another faculty might call it something that's more NIH related. There is some amount of overlap in there with anything in computer science, informatics, and bioengineering as well. Would you guys just address the overlap and how often you think someone might stick to NSF when in fact they can go to NIH and vice versa? Suzanne, if you would please first.
Well, actually, I would say there are problems even much closer to NSF, because in the area of bioinformatics, it's a real challenge to figure out who should fund this, whether this should go to science or to biology. And this is, hasn't been addressed really at all. And some of the researchers in this field, it's not especially junior people, it's really hard to find the right place. So I think and I would say there's probably other areas within NSF where it's really crosses directorates, but the ones I'm familiar with, because I have bioinformatics in CCF, is a real challenge. I think when NSF gets proposals and they read the abstract, they very quickly say, that's not NSF, that goes to NIH. And if diseases are in there, it goes. So I think sometimes, if the PI calls up the program directors and explains what they're trying to propose, they will be told whether, yes, that's the right place, no, it's not. And then when proposals come, there are some of them that I have seen that we did not review and return saying this work really should go to NIH. Are there guidance on a website besides that? I don't think so. Okay.
That'd be too difficult, of course.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if this is working. Thank you. I would agree with that. There's definitely, I do think researchers pick one or the other and kind of stick with that throughout their career. Either they do NIH or NSF. I've served on a couple of peer review panels at NSF, and there have been times when the proposal comes up and, it's very clearly an NIH. It should go to NIH. I think, and I could be completely wrong, but it seems like if it's like laboratory-based, like you said, disease-oriented, it really seems, the application is more for medical science or biological science, then it really seems to belong more to the NIH. And, if it's more computational, it seems like it goes to NSF. However, having said that, we do have these BISTI initiatives, which is trying to attract more computational proposals. So.
And then while we're waiting, would you also address Suzanne, you brought one up, and I'm going to remember the name, but I didn't, about health. That seems to be getting very close. Is NIH and NSF working together on that one?
Yes, they are. There's Howard Waxler, who's the IIS division director, who goes once a week over to NIH. The work that is funded at NSF is, of course, very much especially in size, it is all, what are the computational methods that are used to solve that. A lot of it has to do with sensing, with data mining, machine learning, and so it's clearly, there is clearly a computational value in it. but I would say that this is, it's quite possible that in the next year or two that there is actually a joint effort would come out in an area like that where you really could be in both agencies.
Is any other, Cheryl, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, there are some very clear things, like if there's clinical studies, that's not going to go to the NSF, even if it has a high informatics component. Excuse me, the last thing that I showed very quickly at the end, that innate immunity project has, it's definitely a team science project, and it has a lot of computation in it, but there's a lot of animal models and, excuse me, animal studies involved, and I don't think NSF does that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, Donna is, we're running probably, well, we're actually right on time. Okay, so John, do you want to, thank you very much for the panelists.